morning, everyone. Very excited to be here, joined by Commissioner Ellis, Sheriff Gonzalez, Sergeant Donnie Williams of the Community-Oriented Policing Unit with the Sheriff's Office, Deputy Raven Washington, who is the lead for the program here in this community, has been working in this community for a long time, as well as Liz Hanks, who is the Texas chapter lead of the anti-gun violence and anti-crime organization Moms Demand Action. Before we discuss the topic of today, I want to say just a few words about the weather forecast that I know a lot of folks are concerned about. Today is a warmer day, but after today, tonight, we're going to begin seeing that cold front, and so we're asking folks to take advantage of the warmth today to make preparations for tomorrow, for tonight, tomorrow night, when we expect to see the colder weather. So folks know what to do. Cover pipes, protect your plants, protect your pets, protect the people in your life that might be vulnerable to this cold spell. We're working in coordination with the Sheriff's Office here. Our Office of Emergency Management is in touch with the Red Cross, the Coalition for the Homeless. We are making preparations. The expectation right now is not gonna be something like we saw last year. It's much shorter duration. There doesn't seem to be an overlap between the cold and the rain, but we're going to keep watching. And so the other message is stay tuned to the weather forecast. We will keep you guys posted if we see concerns about commute issues or any other issues. But stay posted to the forecast and use today to prepare. I want to thank Commissioner Ellis for being here as a longtime champion for these types of initiatives and for all of the communities in your precinct, including this one. To Sheriff Gonzalez, Sergeant Williams, Deputy Washington, not just a thank you to the work that they're doing today, but of course every day for public safety in this county. And Liz Hanks, Moms Demand is about more than just common sense gun laws. They are a crime prevention organization, and they are at the table with us facing this challenge, and for that I'm grateful. I don't have to tell anyone living in Harris County today, and certainly no one in this country or in this particular neighborhood, that gun violence is out of control in America. It's something we're seeing in pretty much all metropolitan areas because of this siege we've been under with the pandemic and the economic and other impacts of it. We now live in a country and a county where active shooter drills have become commonplace, where the funerals for police officers killed by assault weapons have become almost routine, where headlines of gun-related road rage incidents seem commonplace, where innocent children who've got their whole lives ahead of them are shot and killed and don't have a chance to grow up. Where we're standing here today is a graphic illustration of that challenge. Right now we're standing in one of the highest crime-prone areas in the entirety of Harris County. And the people of Cypress Station, sadly, have become almost numb to that fact. I was just speaking to Deputy Washington about some of the folks here didn't believe, are you guys really going to tear down this structure? We're about to show them, yes, we are going to. We're going to do this work. Last April, right here, 3-year-old Helena Lane was struck in the head by a stray bullet while she was strapped in a car seat in the back of her mother's car. In November of last year, right here, a 17-year-old was shot in the back. In fact, according to an ABC 13 investigation, in a half-mile area around 900 Cypress Station, right where we are right now, 900 Cypress Station Drive, on average, one crime is reported every 7 hours. The families who live here and who live in other areas hit by violent crime deserve to be safe. They deserve to raise their children without the trauma of gun violence and death. If there was a silver bullet solution or a magic wand we could wave, we would wave it. But there isn't it. It takes hard work. It takes learning from our communities. It takes learning from our mistakes, our decades of failed solutions, which only led to mass incarceration. It takes being honest with our community about what works, not just focusing on what sounds good or what feels good to say. And that's why we're here today. We're starting to fulfill our promise to attack the root causes of gun violence in Harris County. We know that you can't just be tough on crime. You gotta be tough on crime, but you also have to be smart. And part of that involves addressing blight in communities like these. The fire that burned this apartment complex 2 years ago created more than just an eyesore. It created a place that harbors criminal element, a structure that has incubated drug dealers and other criminal activity. The $50 million program we launched will continue to address situations like this one. And we're being smart in targeting those investments. We're focusing on zip codes with the highest violent crime rate, the zip codes that have been most neglected by infrastructure investments. We know this type of approach works. This is not any sort of an experiment. Studies by the CDC, the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research, and others have shown that investments like these not only reduce crime, but save taxpayer dollars. According to a study in the American Journal of Public Health, for example, for every dollar in remediating vacant lots, we save up to $26 in other costs down the line. We owe it to the law enforcement officers. We owe it to the communities we serve to put skin in the game, to add every tool in the toolbox in fighting this crime wave. And I want to make sure everybody knows this is not the only tool in the toolbox. That's why we've increased funding for every single law enforcement agency in the county, including every constable's office and including the district attorney's office, which has received dozens of prosecutors over the past few years. That's why, in addition to these increases, we've invested in reducing the criminal case backlog through visiting judges and associate judges and speeding up technological improvements. That's why we supported initiatives like HEART, our Alternative Responders Program, our Gun Violence Interruption Program, and so many other initiatives. We have a lot to do, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going until we can restore public safety in this community and all communities throughout Harris County. Briefly in Spanish, antes de hablar acerca del tema de hoy, quiero hacer un punto breve acerca del clima. El día de hoy es un poco más cálido, pero esta noche vamos a empezar a ver bastante frío, mañana por la noche. Entonces les pido que tomen ventaja del día de hoy con un clima un poquito más cómodo para prepararse para el frío que viene. Cubra sus plantas, las tuberías que están expuestas a los elementos. Contacte a las personas en su vida que sean vulnerables al frío, cualquier persona mayor, un vecino, un amigo, esté pendiente, tenga un plan para sus mascotas que no queden afuera con la helada que viene. No predecimos que vaya a ser igual que el año pasado, pero si algo cambia, por eso también se les pide que estén muy atentos a los medios de comunicación. Estamos trabajando con el alguacil, con nuestra oficina de manejo de emergencia, con la Cruz Roja, con la autoridad que trabaja con las personas sin hogar, para que todos estemos trabajando juntos, inclusive también con textos, la Agencia de Transporte del Estado para proteger nuestras vías, y los mantendremos informados de cualquier cambio, pero no se ve algo tan grave como lo que sucedió el año pasado. Quiero agradecerle al comisionado Ellis, que siempre nos ha acompañado en este tipo de iniciativas, al alguacil Gonzalez, y también al sargento Williams y a la oficial Raven Washington, quien trabaja aquí en esta comunidad y ha trabajado por varios años. No tengo que decirle a nadie en el condado Harris el día de hoy, y a nadie en el país realmente, que la violencia con armas de fuego está fuera de control en esta nación. Vivimos en un condado, vivimos en un país donde los simulacros de tiroteos, de pistolero activo son una rutina, donde los muertos por armas de asalto son consistentes. Inclusivemente hemos perdido policías que han sido asesinados con armas de asalto, donde las noticias de casos de furia al volante que involucran armas y muerte también es algo consistente, donde perdemos niños que tienen toda una vida por delante gracias a la violencia con armas de fuego. Donde estamos aquí el día de hoy, en Cypress Station, es una ilustración muy gráfica de este problema. Estamos en una de las áreas más propensas a la delincuencia en todo el condado Harris. Y las personas que viven aquí en Cypress Station, desafortunadamente, se han vuelto un poco insensibles a eso por tanto que lo viven. Inclusive estaba hablando con la oficial hace unos minutos y me dijo que las personas que viven aquí no pueden creer que vamos a demoler este edificio. No lo pueden creer, hasta ya pronto lo verán. El abril pasado, del año pasado, una niña de 3 años, Elena Lane, murió golpeada en la cabeza por una bala perdida. Estaba atada en el asiento de seguridad en la parte trasera del coche de su mamá. En noviembre, este noviembre que acaba de pasar, una muchacha de 17 años fue disparada en la espalda. De hecho, de acuerdo a una investigación de BC13, en la media milla alrededor de donde estamos ahora mismo, o sea, 900 Cypress Station Drive, en promedio, un crimen se reporta cada 7 horas. Las familias que viven aquí, las familias que viven en las áreas impactadas por el crimen violento merecen vivir con seguridad, con tranquilidad, criar sus familias sin el trauma de disparos, sin el trauma de violencia. Si hubiera una solución milagrosa, si hubiera una varita mágica, ya yo la habría utilizado, pero no la hay. Este es un tema difícil que toma trabajo y por eso estamos haciendo el trabajo. Toma aprender acerca de lo que no ha funcionado, los esfuerzos de décadas pasadas que solo llevaron a encarcelamiento masivo y realmente no incrementaron la seguridad. Requiere ser honestos con la comunidad acerca de qué funciona y no solo hacer lo que podría verse bien o lo que podría sentirse bien decir. Y es por eso que estamos hoy aquí empezando a cumplir la promesa de atacar las causas fundamentales de la violencia con armas de fuego. Sabemos que no se trata de ser solamente duros contra el crimen, no se trata de solamente la mano dura, es eso y también el ser inteligentes, el ser estratégicos. El incendio que destruyó este edificio de apartamentos aquí creó no solo una monstruosidad, algo pues feo a mirar, sino también un área que ha incubado el tráfico de drogas, los elementos criminales que se reúnen ahí dentro, aquí al lado de viviendas. El programa que lanzamos de $50 millones va a seguir atacando situaciones como esta en todo el condado. Y estamos siendo muy estratégicos en cómo escogemos dónde enfocarnos. Es en las áreas como estas donde hay más violencia y menos inversiones de infraestructura. Sabemos que esta estrategia funciona. Hay estudios del CDC, hay estudios del Manhattan Institute for Policy Research, varios estudios que han mostrado que esta estrategia no solo reduce el crimen, sino también ahorra dólares de los contribuyentes. Entonces, por ejemplo, un estudio reciente del American Journal of Public Health dice que por cada dólar que se invierta en remediar lotes baldíos o reparar edificios abandonados, ahorramos $26 en la comunidad. Se lo demos a los agentes de la ley, a los policías que tanto trabajan por nosotros, a ayudarles con todos los recursos que tenemos y por eso tenemos esta herramienta más. Pero no quiero que piensen que esta es la única herramienta, hay más herramientas. Por eso hemos invertido en todas las agencias de aplicación de la ley. Todas han recibido un incremento histórico, tanto el alguacil como cada uno de los constables y la fiscal, quien ha recibido varios fiscales, docenas de fiscales en los últimos años. Por eso también hemos invertido en atacar la acumulación de casos penales, adicionales jueces, inversiones en tecnología, inversiones en salud mental, inversiones en detener la violencia de armas y mucho más. Hay muchísimo por hacer, pero vamos a seguir luchando contra este crimen hasta que baje esta ola de crimen, tanto acá en esta comunidad como en todo el resto del condado. With that, I conclude my remarks, and I'll pass it on to Commissioner Ellis.
Thank you, Judge, and I'm glad to be here with you. I grew up in Sunnyside. It is a neighborhood very similar to this one in terms of the crime statistics. We picked 2 neighborhoods in the county, one in the city limits, one in the unincorporated area, to focus some of this funding on these new programs to try and reduce criminal activity. I want to thank Sheriff for being here, Sheriff Gonzalez. Obviously, I mentioned the judge. Sergeant Donnie Williams, who's going to speak shortly. She's a Harris County Sheriff's Office community program, community problem-oriented policing unit. I met her father, by the way. I met Deputy Ryan Washington's father here, by the way, as well, and Liz Hanks with Moms Against Action. Look, as the judge said, all of us are concerned about the rise in crime rates. The biggest uptick, obviously, hasn't been in the area of murder. We were at a funeral yesterday for a police officer. This investment we're making shows not only are we committed to traditional law enforcement, which is important, which is why that's where the bulk of our general fund spending in Harris County goes. Well, we're also trying tested, proven programs that have been tried around the country that have been shown to reduce criminal activity in the neighborhood. I saw some of you in the press were looking around wondering what the activity was. Some people were probably trying to get out to go to work. Obviously, a lack of income is a problem in some of these communities. And a job is a tremendous equalizer. But we have to make sure that neighborhoods are safe. This money is coming from the Structural Abatement Program. It's the service provided to communities in Harris County constituents based on available funding. We strive to provide an equitable environment for all residents to actively remove unsafe structures that are safety hazard. Someone asked earlier, well, why has this taken so long? As the judge mentioned, this building, this 8-unit, 2-story apartment building that has an interior space of approximately 6,272 square feet, has been abandoned since August of 2020. Can you imagine living in this building or the building over to my left or to my right? And this building has been abandoned for over a year with activities going on. Who knows what has happened in this building? The owners of the building have been in litigation with the insurance company. The county tagged the building, so what we decided to do was we're going to tear it down and get out of that discussion with the insurance company about whether or not they can be reimbursed. The county would tear it down. The owners, the management company, are partners with us. They're glad we're going to tear it down. We're asking them to consider turning it into green space, but it is their property. And if they decide to build something else on it, that will be done at some point. But this is an important beginning of using resources to think outside the box to see what we can do to reduce crime. Last comment I want to make. One of the biggest contributors to crime in our city and our county is everybody having access to a gun. We have to operate under the rules that are given to us through the legislature. It is too easy for people to get access to a gun. And we got to do as much as we can. This program is going to help. There are other programs that are going to be rolled out as well to try and reduce the number of guns in the hands of people who should not have them. Next, I want to turn it over to a tremendous partner in this process. Both the sheriff and the police chief have been very supportive of us giving this funding to the health department. Sheriff's office helped design the program, but decided for this new spending we're putting forward, he decided it ought to be in the health department. The health department plays a key role in partnering with the sheriff's office. But Sheriff, thank you for your leadership on this. With this, let me bring up our great sheriff, Sheriff Gonzalez.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Judge. Good to see you. Good morning, everyone. Ed Gonzalez, Harris County Sheriff. I'm very excited to be here this morning. I've been out to this property a number of times, working with my team to see firsthand some of the violent crime that's occurred out here. The judge mentioned some of those very scenes that I myself laid eyes on. And it's always tragic to see that happen in our communities. So I'm very grateful, as the judge said, that we have one more tool in our toolbox. As a police executive, I believe in having a number of strategies that we can deploy. That's why more than a year ago we launched our community problem-oriented policing, led by Sergeant Williams, that's here and will be speaking briefly, with other team members such as Deputy Washington that are doing a phenomenal job. We also believe in a number of strategies if we're going to reduce crime in our community. It really takes 3 buckets: intervention, prevention, and enforcement. On the enforcement side, we launched our crime reduction units that are doing phenomenal work out there to really target those serious offenders that are wreaking havoc in our community. And on the intervention and prevention side, again, it's dealing with these type of programs to see how we could better get to the root cause. We're never going to arrest our way out of crime. It's something that we're going to have to just tackle from different areas, and this is an example of that today. The apartment behind me can easily harbor weapons, foster a drug activity. Easily a person, a child could be lured or abducted and taken into that type of structure. We see it far too often in our profession. And so by eliminating that, we're really tackling what is often referred to as a broken windows theory. You know, we're doing away with something bad and hopefully something else comes in its place. And if nothing else, it'll be much safer. This is one of our most violent areas, so we do heavy enforcement. We saturate. We've tried that strategy, but it simply isn't enough. That's why we keep having to come out here. But with the work of Deputy Washington, we have something that's priceless: relationships. You know, being able to collaborate, being able to talk to the residents. When she first started, many people wouldn't approach her. Many people thought she was the other side, you know, just here to arrest people. And by building those relationships, she gets cooperation. She's able to foster the exchange of information, being able to work with the local clergy out here, like the leader that's out here, Pastor Deckard, that's back here to my right. And so, again, you know, we believe in a number of strategies. It's not one size fits all. It's not like we could only invest in one area and not another, you know. And so thanks to this, and also thanks to the investment of Commissioner's Court with Harris County Safe Initiative, our overtime program, we are starting to see some very positive results. You know, no murder is ever acceptable in our community, but I think if my numbers are correct as of this morning, in the month of January, we had 9 in all of unincorporated Harris County, unincorporated Harris County population of over 4 million. Of those, of 9, 7 were domestic violence related. One of the most challenging for us to respond to because they happen inside the home. We can't, no matter how many officers we have, we're not always going to be able to prevent that. So 7 out of 9. One was a road rage, which we're also tackling, and we also raise awareness about that. And the other one was during a robbery. So we want to continue to see those kind of advances, and we're seeing our crime reduction units, and through that overtime program, we're taking serious weapons off our streets. We're going after serious offenders that continue to create violence in our community. And just want to commend again all our personnel at the Sheriff's Office, our partners at the Constable's offices, all law enforcement that are working together as best they can to reduce crime in our community. Brevemente en español, estamos aquí solamente para decir, como dijo nuestra juez Hidalgo, que esta es una más estrategia nosotros para combatir crimen en nuestra comunidad. También hemos visto inversiones que se han hecho para poner más oficiales, ayudar en diferentes estrategias como overtime, y hemos visto la reducción en homicidios en las partes unincorporated de Harris County, pero no solamente es esas inversiones de poner más elementos, sino que también formar esas relaciones con la comunidad. Nuestro CPOP, que es la Community Problem Oriented Policing, se encarga de trabajar bien con la comunidad, ver cómo pueden intervenir y prevenir el crimen antes de que pase, y hemos estado viendo muy buenos resultados con eso. Entonces, en tumbar este edificio, vamos a ver un edificio que muchas veces se puede usar para transacciones de narcóticos, a veces esconden pistolas allí, y hay otros tipos de problemáticas que pasan ahí en ese lugar. But at this point, I want to turn it over to my team member, Deputy Washington. She really is a rock star. I'm really proud of her. I really came not to speak. I came to support her, but she wanted me to say a few words. But really, I wanted to just come support her in this. I'm glad to see her father's here as well in support of her. And it really is a team effort. So we have all elements out here from our enforcement, deputies with a crime reduction unit, leadership, and also a CPOP. And also after that, we'll hear from Sergeant Williams that leads that entire team. They really have, this is an evidence-based program that's paying huge dividends in Harris County, and we're excited. We started it about a year ago, and we're seeing tremendous results. So, Deputy Washington.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Raven Washington with the Harris County Sheriff's Office Community Problem Oriented Policing Unit. I want to start by saying thank you to Judge Hidalgo, the Commissioner's Court, the Public Health, the Harris County Sheriff's Office, my CPOP team members, our numerous collaborative partners, and the cyberstation community for just thoughtfully investing in a holistic approach to public safety and bringing forward another tool in the fight against reducing crime in our communities. Today's demolition is the result of months of ongoing conversation around how to best address quality of life issues as a team. It's about recognizing the links between violence and social disadvantage. The highest incidents of violent crime are generally concentrated in specific communities. Cypress Station ranks among the highest in violent crime. I'm a part of a team of dedicated community problem-oriented policing units who spend their time getting to know businesses, schools, houses of worship, and neighborhoods in their patrol areas to create more innovative ways to increase awareness, safety, and self-sustainability. Over the past several months, we've started to build meaningful relationships with residents and key stakeholders. We also started to implement a culture of community policing across our agencies. The way the residents feel more empowered, the residents feel more empowered to share what's on their mind and what public safety concerns they may have. Our collective community outreach efforts empower our neighbors, many from our most vulnerable communities, with the tools, skills, and support to overcome barriers of success. I come to you from this vulnerable community. I was raised by struggling parents who worked to provide for me, keep me out of harm's way, and to keep me on a straight path. Along the way, I was blessed to be surrounded by people who invested in my quality of life. I'm so grateful that I've been given the opportunity to do the same for another young black girl who is currently in the shoes I've walked in. I give all the credit to God because I believe nothing happens by chance. I am deeply honored to stand before you today, not as a police officer, but hopefully as a symbol of hope, dedication, and change. Today is just one step of many towards safer and better neighborhoods. We pride ourselves as a sheriff's office on working as a team to protect our communities. You guys are a part of this team. Thank you all for your support, commitment, and dedication to this process. This is only the beginning, guys. Thank you. I will bring up Sergeant Donnie Williams. This is my sergeant. He has worked diligently with training us and preparing us to be leaders out here in the community and to strive for greatness. Sergeant Williams.
First of all, thank you for coming out this morning. There's nothing else to be said. I just want to take the opportunity again to thank the vision of our sheriff, our commanding staff, to look at a more holistic look at fighting crime. As we noticed, like the sheriff said, there's not one way to fix it. It's just another way. This is the first step, so people can see that we really mean what we say, and our word is our bond. So if we say we're going to come out and make a change, we are making a change, but it's one step. And we thank y'all for your time. Now I give you one of our stakeholders in the community, Pastor Deckard.
Real quick and real brief, today is an example of what happens when you stop pointing fingers and join hands. Positive change takes place. The first step in many steps to make this community a great place to live, work, and worship.
Good morning, and I want to thank the Sheriff's Office, County Judge Lena Hidalgo, my County Judge, my Commissioner Rodney Ellis, for inviting me to speak today and for bringing us this program. My name is Liz Hanks. I am a Houstonian, and I'm the volunteer chapter lead for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We are a nonpartisan grassroots organization focused on data-proven policies that reduce gun violence. Our volunteers are very concerned about the gun violence devastating communities throughout Houston right now, as many of you are, I'm sure, as well. So we're so thankful that Judge Hidalgo and Commissioner Ellis and the Sheriff's Office are taking these meaningful steps to combat it by investing directly in the communities that are most impacted by it. As you've heard, it's called CPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, has been proven to work. And if you'll give me just one moment, I'd love to share a few important statistics from you from other cities that have employed these types of policies. Cleaning vacant lots in neighborhoods below the poverty line in Philadelphia reduced crime by 13% and gun assaults by 29%. Adding one additional outdoor light per square city block in New York City reduced nighttime outdoor assault, homicide, and weapon crimes by 12% over a 6-month period. And demolishing blighted buildings in Detroit reduced gun assaults by double-digit percentages in the 14 months after demolition. So you can see that these are proven effective policies and money well spent. Unfortunately, as we've been talking about today, there's no single policy that we can implement that will end this epidemic of gun violence. Instead, it's going to take an all-hands-on-deck approach, including projects like this, funding violence intervention work, and strengthening our weak gun laws in Texas. The Texas legislature continues to place obstacles in the way of our local leaders here in Houston who want to address gun violence, including, most recently, by passing permitless carry and tightening our already restrictive state preemption laws. We are thankful for Judge Hidalgo and Commissioner Ellis implementing this program and for continuing to think creatively about how to make our communities safer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers. I failed to acknowledge Pastor Decker earlier. Thank you for joining us. Any questions?
Justice Gonzalez, you mentioned some of the zip codes, for high crime. Do you have those by chance on that front?
Is this someone with the sheriff's office?
This is 770.
Yes. We have them. We can send them to you afterwards. Do you have something to add? Yes.
I don't have the specific zip codes, but our community problem-oriented policing team are focusing in some micro zones. But one of the things that I think is unique is that, unlike maybe in the past where it was just put more saturation, put more deputies, we're taking a holistic approach where his team goes in there and tries to build those relationships, working with the local leaders such as Pastor Deckard out here in our District 1 area, the greater Greens Point area, as well as out in East Harris County. That's also one of our very busy areas off Uvalde and Woodforest and Wallaceville out there. So again, it's trying to become more analysis driven, but not just on the enforcement side, making sure we're also building those relationships, working with the schools. Many of our members go out to schools and are working with the youth, working with our Police Activities League that we launched in Harris County and at the Sheriff's Office last year. So Sergeant Williams, you are working on some of those microzones and building those relationships, and some of the key, we're looking at some of the high violence areas in unincorporated Harris County, correct?
Yes, sir. In the city, I know Sunnyside is 77033 because that's where I grew up. I'm not sure what this one is.
This is 77090.
No sé si pudiera hablar un poco acerca de las muertes que han habido registradas en el condado. Lo dijo en inglés, pero si lo
Sí, en unincorporated Harris County, que no es es una jurisdicción separada. Hasta este año llevamos 9, 7 son debido a violencia doméstica. Lamentablemente es algo que tenemos que tratar de buscar más estrategias. Una fue de road rage y el otro fue durante un robo. Entonces pensamos que las iniciativas que ha lanzado la juez y la mesa directiva del condado, el Commissioner's Court, nos ha ayudado por lo menos para tratar de disminuir eso. Obviamente queremos prevenir todas, pero va a llevar más trabajo, pero en eso estamos. No quiere decir que ya estamos contentos de eso, pero hemos estado trabajando muy duro para cada rato estamos poniendo en nuestras páginas sociales las armas muy potentes que estamos quitando de las calles, individuos muy graves, serios que estamos también, cuando es debido, llevarlos a la cárcel.
Eso, siguiendo esa pregunta, cuando la comunidad ve videos por la prensa donde los oficiales de la policía se la juegan, como estos 3 de HPD la vez pasada, y con una pistolita, y sale un tipo con una cosa que empieza automáticamente a matar, ¿qué le dice a usted y qué es lo que podemos hacer? Porque obviamente ustedes también, como dicen en inglés, you guys are outgunned.
Sí, no, pues para nosotros es muy preocupante, por eso estamos viendo qué más podemos hacer para mejor proteger a nuestros oficiales también, porque el tipo de armas que estamos viendo, estas armas que son creadas también por 3D Technology, son muy peligrosas, son muy potentes. Hemos estado hablando mucho, trabajando con nuestros compañeros a nivel federal sobre los switches que le dicen, que hacen estas armas que disparen mucho más. Es muy preocupante, no tenemos la solución inmediatamente, pero es identificando quiénes son esos individuales y ojalá que haga un juicio y que los puedan juzgar hasta lo máximo que la ley permite.
Y yo quiero agregar algo, y son estas armas de asalto, armas de guerra, y lo que ha existido en este estado y ahora más con la ley que acaba de pasar es no hay muy poca regulación. Puede venderse un arma de una persona a otra de una manera casual, sin evaluar el antecedente, sin evaluar si es un arma como esas automáticas, semiautomáticas, que básicamente agarran a tiroteos a todo el mundo. Entonces, hasta cierto nivel, es lo que han hablado varias personas, se trata de legislación a nivel estatal. Hasta ahí, pues no vamos a sentarnos nosotros cruzados de brazos, pero vale la pena reconocer que ese es un obstáculo adicional. And we were talking about how these law enforcement officers sometimes are outgunned was the word that was used in the question. When you see these 3 Houston police officers trying to fight back against somebody with this weapon of war, assault weapon, what do you do at that point? And it's worth recognizing the issue that was brought up, which is there is very lax legislation in this state that now is even weaker and more dangerous given the recent law that passed, which a lot of law enforcement opposed. And that's because anybody pretty much can get one of these weapons without a background check, just casually obtain one and then go and harm our community and our police officers. So that doesn't mean we sit here with our arms crossed and lament the laws, but we do have to recognize that it makes these obstacles much harder. And so we're not going to give up. We're beginning to see some results, as the sheriff mentioned. But of course, we can't be blind to that challenge that is in legislation.
And Judge, what do you say to your critics who say that you've been too weak on violent crime?
It's politics, you know. It's an election year. I've got an election in 3.5 weeks and another one in November. It's just no basis in fact. If you look at the investments historically, no commissioner's court in this county in history has invested more in our law enforcement agencies than I have alongside Commissioner Garcia and Commissioner Ellis. That is a fact. If you look at the percentage investment in law enforcement, it is the biggest chunk of our general fund budget. If you want to compare how much money does the district attorney get compared to the public defenders, it is more. You know, either any accusation that is made is based simply in rhetoric, and it's disappointing because there is a real issue. There are people dying. There was a funeral yesterday. There are officers dying. And for people to spend their time playing politics over these dead bodies is despicable. It is sad. It is unfair, and it is inappropriate. But we're not going to sit here again lamenting. We are doing the work. $50 million toward this kind of work. People are ridiculing this kind of effort. They say, well, planting trees doesn't cut down on crime. Okay, there are studies, academic studies, showing the results of destroying this building. You want to come here and tell this community that you're not going to tear it down because it's planting a tree? And everybody has a role in this. So all of us can work together to tackle crime and to not lead to mass incarceration 2.0 in this country simply for the sake of political pandering. Every single person here has a role in that.
Judge, are you concerned about your reelection because violent crime is now ticking upward?
Look, everything I do is based on what's best for the community. People know me, they've seen me work through crisis after crisis and challenge after challenge, and I think I've proven enough times, people know enough times that the decision I make are squarely about what's best for the community. It'd be very easy for me to pander and say what sounds good and, you know, as people have done, but I'm focused on what works, what's going to make a difference, and I hope and I trust and I'm confident that based on that we will be reelected. But look, all I can do to sleep well at night is do my very best, and if that yields to a good electoral outcome, great. And if it's not what people want to see, you know, that's democracy. So I'm not going to change my tack for the sake of politics, as some people are doing.
Any other questions?
Last question from me. Do you support bail reform?
That's a loaded question. So, you know, it's again something shrouded in rhetoric. We implemented misdemeanor bail reform because our bail system, our misdemeanor bail system, was found to be unconstitutional, to violate the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. A Bush-appointed judge found that. That means that we have had independent academics recognize, assess this, and see that our misdemeanor bail reform has not only reduced disparities, but it has not led to an increase in crime. Now, do we need additional change? Yes, we need a system that can distinguish between repeat violent offenders and low-level offenders. The repeat violent offenders are the ones that need to be locked up. So that's the kind of reform I support. I know people throw around this bail reform term. It's sort of become meaningless at this point. But, you know, we've had the man that is accused of murdering Corporal Galloway. He paid his bond in 3 counties. That is a broken bail system. When a judge sets $1 million bond and you can just pay it and leave, commit another crime in another county, pay it and leave, commit another crime in another county, pay it and leave. That needs to be addressed in legislation, again, at the state level.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
They're gonna tear it down while we're here?
Yeah. And the sergeant's gonna show you around.
¿Sacamos todo eso?